let's go through a brief synopsis of what goes on. We have several scenes in this play that introduce us to the characters, that introduce us to the concept. We start with, the priest and Madame Irma. Madame Irma telling the priest to clean up and to get done with what he's doing. We realize it's all, an S&M place. It's a brothel, and we immediately sort of may find ourselves feeling very sort of icky, or oh, this is weird. It feels odd. It feels wrong. But what we see is that in that very first scene, we're introduced to why these people want to dress and want to do what they do, right? The man who is portraying the priest feels like this is the one place where he has real control, where he has real power, right? Why has he chosen to dress up as a priest? Because he sees priests as people who have power. Whether it's legitimate or not, doesn't matter, but he feels like when you see somebody who is a priest, you have respect for them. You believe in what they're doing. You believe that they have some sort of power, some sort of control, right? And what we get, right, out of this idea of power is then continued in the scene with the judge, is then continued with the scene with the general, right? These are archetypes of power. You've got religious power in one. You've got, judicial power in another. You've got strength in another with the general, right, for commanding armies and, wielding, weaponry and things like this, right? You have, right, these three sort of bases of power: religious, governmental, judicial, right, and physical power. And all three of the men portrayed in these scenes have chosen to wield power in this way because they want to exert control, right? They want to exert control and power. They're looking for that. What we realize as an audience, and what we hear in their dialogue, is that they want the ability to pretend, but do they really want to wield the real thing? Well, they express concern in certain areas, right? When the judge feels as if, his, prisoner, may have actually committed the horrible crimes that he is sentencing her for, he becomes a little nervous, right? Thinking that, wow, those are terrible things. You didn't really do them, did you? But then at the same time feels like, well, if they are really things that have been done, then he really has the ability to sentence, right? There is a delicate balance, right, between responsibility and pretend, illusion and erotic fantasy, right? And I think that gives us a great deal of insight into what Irma understands, what Madame Irma understands, that her house of illusions allows people, one, to exist outside of this revolution, which is a very real thing, which is a very dangerous thing, where people are dying, where people are suffering truly. Those realities, right, can be escaped in the House of Illusions. People can retake power and not think about the horrible things that are happening. When we meet the chief of police, when the chief of police comes in and wonders whether or not his image is being imitated, right, in the halls of illusion, his desire is for people to see him as powerful enough to want to imitate. He sees that unless he is imitated, unless people think that he is powerful enough that they want to portray him, that their fantasy is to be a chief of police, unless people are doing that, then he has not really achieved his goal in life, that his position isn't really as powerful as he thinks it should be. And the thing that he is most interested in, right, is that he knows that there is, a rebel fighter who comes in to this House of Illusions from time to time. And he is very interested, right? That he is there, right? That the chief of police wants to participate, that the rebel fighter wants to participate. This is neutral ground, right? As we said in the very, very first video, right? That Madame Irma has succeeded in creating something that exists as a universal, right? But that there is also, right, discussion of what real power is, what real illusion is. That we discussed this Chantal, who has sort of become or is being made into the image of the revolution. Is she really powerful? Is she really anything special? No, but when she is raised up, right, as a symbol of the revolution, when she sings and is able to inspire people, right, she gives them a reason to believe that they are as well very strong, right? This illusion of a figure like a Lady Liberty, or in France they would call it the Marianne, right? That these symbols are worth fighting for. Do they have any real power? Well, they have power insofar as they make people fight better. They make people remember what they're fighting for. In that way, do they have real power? Well, the image does. Does the person? Can the person do anything different? Is the person even real? Well, as we see in the balcony, right, when Chantal is, is shot and dies, right, it is a difference. There's a difference in the way that the revolution is seen, right? When Madame Irma is approached by the palace envoy, and the palace envoy says, everybody has died. The queen has died. The judges have died. The priests have died. The generals have died. We just need an illusion. We need people to see these people and to believe that they're real, and they will be real. That's when we start to get into sort of the real crazy mindset of this play that can also, I think, be very unsettling for us if we think about it too much, right? What if, right, all of the people that we have in positions of power are really just illusions? What if there is no real, what if all of it is behind the scenes, right? This idea of the Illuminati, right? That's exactly where it comes from, right? The Illuminati are, 5 people who control everything, and everybody else around the world is simply taking orders and playing a game and playing a role. It's all a big cinema. This is where conspiracy theories come from, right? This is where we really start to see that this can happen in real life, right? Certainly not to be super political, but when we look at something like a January 6th and people, rebelling against the powers that be and saying then in the aftermath that this was all an act, it was all play, this was all set up by something else, right? Antifa really staged this so that we would think that other people were actually participating. That you see, people can go down rabbit holes, right? Madame Irma is not wrong. Jean Genet is not wrong. These kinds of situations might actually, be real for people. People might actually believe that these things are real. So, as we're reading this particular play, to sort of summarize where we've been so far, the play is all about destabilizing what we think of as the traditionally seen as dirty or filthy or erotic, putting that into a place where we're kind of focusing on that rather than focusing on the real idea behind the play, which is what is real power, how does real power work, and then seeing that sort of played out on the stage in Genet's production. So, in the next video, which will sort of be the final video, we'll talk about what we're planning on doing with this next week, right? That we've seen up to, right, the about 2/3 of the way through this play, where we're deciding, are we going to maintain power with illusions, or are we going to admit that the power structure has collapsed? So we'll talk about that in just a moment.